What is up, guys? So today we are actually going to be going over some more interesting Pokemon for the Tempest Cup that some of you guys have actually asked for. We're actually going to be going over Plusle and Minun today, and Plusle and Minun are actually really interesting. So I didn't do a whole lot of digging before I started doing the research for this video. I actually really like Plusle and Minun after doing this, so let's actually take a look at some information about them. Plusle and Minun are going to be pure electric typing, meaning that they're only going to be really threatened by ground types. As you can see on the chart, I do have Plusle in red and Minun in blue, and they actually have the exact same moveset, so just kind of went with green there. So max CP at level 40, Plusle's actually going to max out at 1778. Minun's actually going to max out at 1694, so that's actually an interesting tidbit. So just from their max CPs, you can kind of tell that Plusle ends up having way more of an attack stat, but Minun actually has quite a bit more bulk put onto it. Considering that they both have the exact same moveset, it's probably just better to go with Minun, period. Just because that it can hit a higher stat product, period. So let's actually look at that. So you can actually hit 1500 at 40 with a 0 attack IV, a 2 on the defense, and a 3 on the stamina with Plusle. That's actually really good. The one that I have, the one that we caught the other day, was 1495. I don't remember what level it is, but that's the one that I'm going to be trying to do a little bit of testing with in the upcoming weeks. Minun actually hits 1500 at level 40 with a 0 on the attack and 11 on both the defense and the stamina. So you can see that the IV distribution is a lot higher on Minun, and that's just simply because its attack stat is so much lower. It can actually put in more of an IV stat for each, the defense and the stamina, to actually hit a higher number than Plusle here. And of course, you can actually shift these around a little bit. You could probably do like 15 HP and maybe like 9 or 10 on defense, you know, kind of depending on how that goes. Stat product wise, we actually end up Plusle coming in 73rd out of around 160 contestants in the Tempest League, so he's about middle of the road whenever it comes to stat product. So he's not horrible by any means, but he's kind of in that like gray area where he's not like super good, he's not clearly good, but he's not clearly bad either. Minun, on the other hand, ends up in 57th, so quite a few places higher, but still kind of in a gray area where it's looking good, but it's not even breaking the top 50. It doesn't even break the top third of the participants in the Tempest Cup. With a stat product at level 40, max stats, max IVs, everything, versus their worst situation. Basically, I take the highest level, figure out what the base stats are for that level, not considering IVs. Check out their potential. So they're both really close. Plusle coming in at 74.95 and Minun just tipping over 75 with a 75.21. So they're actually doing fairly well in terms of potential. I really look for Pokemon that are above a 50% off the bat anyways. I think that under 50%, the Pokemon's really not being utilized to its full potential. Its base stats may not even get really used. If you take a look at something like Mamoswine and Piloswine, you can really start to see that at a higher level, Piloswine is going to outperform Mamoswine any day of the week. So that's kind of what I'm looking for when I look at these, you know, potential numbers. It's basically just how good are they going to be compared to a Pokemon with similar moves. How good is Plusle and Minun going to be? Let's actually move on to moves here. So we actually have Quick Attack and Spark as our fast moves here. Spark, of course, being the only one that actually gets a stab bonus. Quick Attack having 3.5 energy per turn and a 2.5 damage per turn. It's actually a pretty well-rounded move. I don't have any qualms with Quick Attack at all. Spark is going to be actually gaining 4 energy per turn, which is really high, and then only doing 2 damage per turn. It's actually, if I'm not mistaken, it's the exact opposite of Bite. So, interesting. Spark actually is probably going to be the preferred moveset here, only because Spark is going to get that stab damage. It's actually going to be more useful as a fast move than Quick Attack would be in this cup. Now, as far as our charge moves, we actually have Discharge, which is highly regarded as one of the best electric type moves in the game. 45 energy to fire off, it's going to do 65 damage. What that means is it's actually going to do 1.44 damage per energy. Whoa, that's actually really good. Next, you actually have Swift, which is a normal type move, so no stab here. It's going to take 55 energy to fire off, it's going to do 60 damage, and it'll do a 1.09 damage per energy. So not really as efficient as the Discharge, but it's going to be a normal type, so it's going to be hitting for neutral damage, which is pretty good. Thunderbolt, which actually recently got a buff. It used to be, before January 31st, it actually used to only do 80 energy, if I'm not mistaken. So after January 31st, it got a little bit of a buff. It went up to 90 energy. So it takes 55 energy to fire off, doing 90 energy every time you fire it, which puts it at a 1.64 damage per energy, which is crazy because that actually makes it more efficient than Discharge. So, and it only costs 10 more energy. To me, that's a pretty hard choice. That's honestly, I don't know. Let's actually look at some positives and some negatives for Plusle and Minun here. Let's go over negatives first. So the negatives are, so I did some simulations and I basically took all of the bulkiest Pokemon and I stuck Plusle and Minun up against those two. So you're basically going to lose to Steelix, Tropius, Jumpluff, Claydol, and Lantern. So you're actually going to lose to 5 out of the top 11. I did go 11, but you'll see why. You're actually going to lose to 5 out of the top 11 bulkiest Pokemon. It's basically going to put you in the middle of the road whenever you go in and you have, you know, a 50-50 chance of taking down one of the bulkiest Pokemon. The next negative thing is that they both do have kind of low stamina, and they are going to die kind of quickly, especially to just pure ground type moves. They're going to get annihilated, which it's kind of a weird trade-off because they're actually decent, but the trade-off is that they aren't decent because they don't have the stamina to just stay alive longer. The last negative that I actually wrote down is that they're kind of a costly investment. So, being that they max out at level 40, I don't know, like, if you guys remember back in the Boulder Cup, like Medicham, a level 40 15 Medicham is extremely expensive to actually max out. It's actually really expensive to max those out on the Stardust side, plus you're going to in turn have to end up buying a charge move for it, which is going to cost you another 50,000 Stardust. So that's pretty hefty as far as the actual investment goes, which I definitely would consider a negative. That it's not as bad as it could be, but it's definitely kind of costly. Next, we actually have our positives. So let's go over our positive matchups. So we actually beat Lugia, Dugong, Altaria, Lapras, and Mantine. See, I had to include Mantine because he's 11th, you know, but we just talked about him on Monday. So if you count those up, actually, that's only 5 and 5. And the reason that I have 11 here is because Regice is kind of in an awkward position. I don't know what most people are thinking about running on Regice, which we actually probably will look at him in the near future, but Regice has the ability to have Earthquake. If it has Earthquake, done deal. You basically lose. You do take Regice down to I think it was like 22 health, which isn't bad, but once it gets that Earthquake off, you're annihilated. Regice is in a weird position. I don't know if people are going to want to use Earthquake as their like primary charge move, or if they're going for something ice type, or if they even would try to invest a 100 candy 100,000 Stardust investment into Regice at all. Next, for our positives, we actually have a very fast energy gaining Pokemon here between the both of them, and very quick payoffs. I mean, with Spark gaining 4 energy per turn, that's insane. That means that you're going to have Discharge in 12 turns. That's 6 seconds. Every turn is half a second long. That's 6 seconds to get to Discharge. What? That's actually really crazy. So very fast energy, very quick payoff. And the last positive that I actually have is that the fact that Swift is one of the charge moves that you have access to makes it pretty decent in this cup. The fact that it's only going to be resisted by 3 types is really crazy. And those 3 types are Rock, Ghost, and Steel. I mean, there is nothing wrong with that. Only 3 types are actually going to be resisted by that. And that sets you up to be at least neutral to 15 other typings in this freaking cup. So definitely worth taking a look at both Plusle and Minun. So as far as their primary role, what I would personally do is I would use these as shield busters. They're very fragile, but they're very quick. So whereas like Mantine in Monday's episode was actually going to be a mid that's a shield buster, this could be a lead shield buster, considering that it's only weak to ground, and ice types are probably going to be the most prominent typing that you go up against. I think that it would be a safe lead, and you can really set up to do quite a bit of shield busting right out of the gate. And then you also have Mantine to back you up and do that quick shield busting as a bulky defensive type Pokemon as well. So I definitely think that Plusle and Minun are definitely shield busters, but without a doubt. I mean, the fact that they gain, you know, a charge move in 6 seconds is just, that's insane. And then you also have like, there's this really weird thing I was noticing in my spreadsheet, which I forgot to mention on Monday, but yes, the spreadsheet is going to be in the description to all of these videos so that you guys can go through and you can look at the numbers that I look at whenever I make these videos. But in the spreadsheet, I actually noticed that Plusle and Minun are really, really close to Marshtomp in terms of shield busting ability. So Marshtomp is the best shield buster in this meta, period. His ability with Mudshot and Surf are just insane. He gains energy so fast, and he's able to push out that damage so quickly that he's going to be able to break shields super quick. Plusle and Minun run up against the exact same issue. They have the ability to gain this energy and then dish out all of those charge moves very quickly. So I definitely think that Marshtomp would be a great shield buster for water and ground type moves, whereas Plusle and Minun are actually going to be great for electric and normal type moves. So it's kind of whichever one you need. If you feel like your team needs more water or ground type moves, go with Marshtomp. If you need electric and normal type moves, go with Plusle and Minun. That's honestly like my full-on take. That is actually all that I came up with for Plusle and Minun. After this deep dive, I'm a pretty big believer in both Plusle and Minun being in this cup. I think that they're not going to be bad at all, and I think people are probably going to sleep on them. While they're not super complicated and they're not really out there in terms of matchups, like it's kind of cut and dry, like, oh, I go with a ground type Pokemon and I got it. Yeah, but they're going to be really good, and they're going to surprise people with how quick they are for sure. So that is actually all I have for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching these types of videos. Make sure that if you have any suggestions on Pokemon that I should do deep dives on, please let me know down in the comments below, and I will actually try to get to them before the end of the Tempest Cup, because that's my goal. 3 times a week, we're going to go through these Pokemon, and we're going to do deep dives, and we're going to figure out what they're all about, what their roles are, and how good they are. So, if you like to like videos, make sure you do that. If you don't, you can be that guy. Otherwise, let me know what you have to say down in those comments below. And until tomorrow, I will catch you then.